So this is just a little progress report on the Zenith 1951 giant circle TV I've been working on. Here are all the capacitors that I replaced. And then here's the chassis. Now I'm working with a 24H20 chassis. That's what this chassis is. It's a 24H20. And this capacitor here, 20 microfarad, it's not original. Originally it was here, right along, fastened in here, and it was a 10 mic. That goes on the 12AT7 noise limiter. I'll replace it, probably leave it where it's at. It's correct in the circuit, but it threw me for a loop because some other technician years and years ago had done a repair and replaced that capacitor. And on the notes of the original download of the Zenith service manual I have, if that capacitor goes bad, the picture gets schmeary looking and the horizontal is a little tilted if that capacitor goes bad. Here's the other discrepancy. These two resistors right here, in parallel, they're 550K, a little more than half a meg. Now in the original schematic and in the original Zenith service manual for the 24H21 or 20 chassis, it's a 24H20. It's supposed to be 560K. Now this resistor was tacked in. It's a half a meg. It's marked on it 0.5 megs. And it went up to 5 mega ohms. So essentially this resistor opened, and that's in the horizontal circuit. I have a feeling this is why I wasn't getting any high voltage or any horizontal sweep, is this resistor right here. Now I put these two resistors in parallel equal 550 ohms. I'm sure that's close enough. 550,000 ohms, I should say. A little more than a half a meg, and of course they're half watts, so that's a 1 watt resistor. If that doesn't work, I'll get something else. The other thing is another technician had done some repairs. This big green capacitor was just tacked in up in here. It was probably originally was a Bumblebee capacitor that went bad, 0.1. I have a new one in there. Also this resistor, I don't know what I'm talking about. This capacitor here is a replacement and it looks good enough, and I tested it. It's a good capacitor. So I left it in the circuit, but all of the Bumblebee capacitors and some of the replacement capacitors got replaced with all these brand new ones. All of the yellow ones that you see, they're brand new. By the way, I've tested all these, not all of them, but I tested most of these Bumblebees when I took them out, and they tested right on the money, right where they're supposed to be. Now of course that doesn't mean that they'll do the same thing when they're in circuit operating. That's a whole different story. Then they might leak. So I just was curious at what they were measuring out to be if I tested them out of the circuit. But they're all replaced. So I'm coming along. The next step is to replace these electrolytic capacitors and also the two cans that are in there. I had hoped to be able to strategically find places in the circuit to put axial lead electrolytics. In this particular case, I'm almost thinking I might have to do the dreaded stuffing of the cans that some of you rebuilders do. I don't want to do that. That's a lot of work. But in this case, I may have to do it. I'm not really sure. 1997, I think I picked this set up. My friend Pat Sweeney and I were on our lunch hour, and in West Dallas, Wisconsin, in an antique store, right in the window, this TV sat. And I spotted it, and I bought it. If you watch my earlier videos, you'll find out that I traced back where the original owner was, and that person was living in a house right around the corner from a nightclub I used to play the organ at in Brown Deer, Wisconsin. So I was playing in the early 70s. So when you think about that, this TV may have still been in that house in the early 70s and might have still even been working. It's hard to say. It's amazing the circles some of this stuff makes. Anyways, just a progress report on the Zenith Giant Circle TV. I'll be putting electrolytic capacitors in next. Oh, by the way, this tube, it's a 5EXP4, I'm pretty sure it is. You can see what happened. All 5 wires are there, but no plug. And I can't find the plug. So I have no idea what I'm going to do for testing this set when I get it done, because I don't want to put the metal picture tube back in. I'll have to see what eBay has. Maybe I can find the plug. Maybe I can get another one. I don't know. But there's where I'm at with my test tube. 5AXP4. So there you go. I'll be making another progress video as soon as I get all the electrolytic capacitors in.